Good news, folks. The 1980s are back. Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. That's right, the 80s are back in fashion, though if you ask me, they never went out of fashion. I was born in the mid-70s, so I grew up in the 80s. They were glorious years as far as I'm concerned. Everything seemed bigger in the 80s. The movies were huge, the cartoons were huge, the pop stars were huge, though perhaps not all of them. The moustaches were huge, the haircuts were huge, the jewellery was huge, and the watches, well actually, they were quite small. Casio have been re-releasing some classic models recently. I looked at the A100 not that long ago, and when this AQ800 popped up in my feed one day, I knew I had to have one. Maybe two. They describe it as a contemporary update to the ECU 450 design from the 1980s, though of course it looks a lot like the AQ230 that I have owned several of and reviewed on this channel before, but it's even more shockingly retro because of the surround to the digital display and the vector style checkerboard pattern behind the analog display. And as always with Casio, they don't break the bank. I think I paid about 65 Aussie each for these. That's roughly 40 to 45 USD at the current exchange rate therefore. And bear in mind this is a brand new model. I'm sure those prices will drop over the coming months. And most importantly of all, they do one in gold. If you're gonna go 80s, you may as well do it properly, right? Let's flip the camera and have a look at them. Okay, so as alluded to in the intro, I bought two of these. I just couldn't help myself. They weren't all that expensive. There only are actually 3 different models and I wanted to have a look at 2. And hey, I wanted to show you 2 as well. So I did it for you. Honestly. What did I get then? Well, I went for the silver and black one, which is the AQ800E-1 AEF. And as you saw in the intro on my wrist, is the gold one, which is the AQ800 EG-9AEF. Now, where did I get them from? I got them from Tache area, where I usually get my Casios. Hey, look, no affiliation, no association, but more often than not, when I check prices, this Spanish dealer comes out to be the best of the lot. Obviously, with taxes and things, your prices may vary considerably, but it works out pretty well for me. 60 something for the black one, and a little more than that for the gold one. But it's worth it. By the way, I love how Casio have now got a dedicated vintage range since 1974. Previously, they were just Casios, and now they're the same watches pretty much, but labelled as vintage. I love it. Okay, so with these two, the silver watch, the silver and black watch is set. That is my current time. I'm recording this video at 3 minutes past 11. The gold one is not set, so I'll kind of run you through how this module works. When I reviewed the AQ230 a while ago, I referred to it as the $40 GMT because of the ANI-Digi. You can display 2 different time zones at once. And obviously because these are ANI and Digi, you can do exactly the same thing. You can either duplicate the 2-hander time with the digital time like I have done on this one, or you can have 2 totally different times set, as I will show you in just a minute or two. Let's do dimensions first of all though. I did say 80s watches were small, and yeah, this one is pretty slight. Perhaps not as small on wrist as it would first appear to be on paper because of the case, but you'll see that in just a second. So 30.3 mil in diameter, which is fairly narrow. 8.8 mil thick with a compact 40.3 lug to lug. 18 millimeter lug width. And you can't take any links out of this strap, so this is what you get, 51 grams in weight. Now the case is not made of metal, it is only made of resin plastic, and it's coated with this high polish finish here. Again, if you treat this one roughly, or you just wear it as a daily for an extended period, this will wear off and you'll be left with that kind of unsightly, creamy coloured plastic underneath. Not much we can do about that though, folks, but they are so economically viable. If that happens, it's probably time to replace it with another one. Likewise, that is a resin glass covering. It's like a mineral glass covering. Again, scratches are a problem, but again, Not too difficult if it becomes illegible just to replace it. Only water resistant here though, WR, you know, splash proof, doing the dishes, etc. But you probably do not want to take this one into a swimming pool with you. Press on stainless steel case back, again suggesting this one is not bound for the pool. Casio are good though, they do print the module number on all of their watches on the case back. This one is a 5696. They don't supply instruction manuals, so you just go online and you can find all of the instructions there. The bracelet, 18mm lug width, but it does flare from the case at 21, narrows all the way down to 14.6 on my calipers anyway. However, I think this one, because it is a fairly narrow case, because it's only 30, I think this watch will get away with leather straps in a way that a lot of other Casios with 18mm lug width simply will not. So the bracelet, rolled links, you know, 80s style, and you're only paying $40, $50 for one of these, so you're only getting rolled links. Now this little clasp here, you pop that up, slide it up and down, almost infinite adjustability, so you will always get the right fit. However, I recommend that you wear this one a little tighter than you normally would because, yeah, rolled links, there's a chance you might lose a couple of hairs if you don't. Casio branded on the fold over there, which is nice. So that's the basics then, but let's have a look at this thing. It is achingly retro. I love that crisscross checkerboard vector pattern on the analog display. You have applied batons at the 12, the 3, the 6 and 9, everything else is just printed on, and two really skinny, slender hands, only two hands up here, which is the way of all of these Ani-Digi Casios. Digital display here, now it is quite deep set. You can see, yeah, you can only see this from certain angles because of the case profile. There you are, you see that kind of big wedge shape, again, very retro there. It's legible from most angles, but not from all angles, so again, once it's on the wrist though, it does face towards your eyes, so yeah, I guess that's why they did it. What does this one do then? Well, you have a mode button here, a set button here, and this little button on the side. I'll show you that's what you use to set the two analog hands. So press it once and you have a stopwatch. Twice you have a second time zone, or effectively a third time zone. So you can have one of them mirroring and you can have a second time zone here set. This is set to GMT, so the time in London, the time in Scotland for me is 1:15 midnight. One more push and you have the month, the date and the day of the week. One more push and it is the alarm, and one more push and you're back to that dual time display. DL in the bottom left corner, I guess that's what it stands for, dual. No light here at all though, no loom here at all, so it's pretty much useless after dark. Let's set the gold one then, but let's admire it first. Look at that lustrous sheen. It looks like $1 million instead of about 50 or 60. The third button on the side there, that's the one I mentioned. Toothpick or a spring bar removal tool. If you hold that down, you'll see the hand move. Yeah, you can just roll it there. Let's set it to the watch reviewer's favorite, 10:05. Now everything else is set manually. So you set that one first and then you can set all of these to match or not to match. Stopwatch as discussed. This is the kind of GMT or the second time zone. Hold that down there. Pops into set mode. Cycle through those. There we are, cycle through that, set it to 11, and back again, 12-hour, you can set it into 24-hour mode if you prefer. To be honest, 24-hour mode might not be a bad idea for these screens, just to give them a bit more differentiation from the main screen above. There we are, date, month, etc. Alarm, hold that one down to set. And again, you can cycle that. Cycle through it one more time, and it should pop up with the hourly chime or alarm there. Turn that off, move on. Yeah, set that alarm and we're off onto the dual time. So you can either have this one reflective of the analog two-hander or you can set it to a different time zone altogether. I'm just going to leave it as is. So tracking one time zone there, second time zone there, and if I cycle through these one more time, third time zone there, hence 3 time zones from a $50 watch. Not bad at all really, is it? on wrist. Look at this thing glinting away under my studio lights. Yeah, I had to pick up the gold one. It's a fun watch. It's a retro watch. I think gold just adds to the fun. You're not trying to show off. You're not trying to convince anyone that you're wearing an expensive timepiece with one of these. Quite the opposite, in fact. So yeah, I really do appreciate the gold color. I've got a 7-inch wrist for your reference. I think this size is actually fine on me. Look, there's no bulk, there's no heft here. It's a 30mm diameter watch coming in at 51 grams, so I'm certainly not going to use either of those two words. But this one is a little bit longer than some of the others. The AQ230, for example, coming in at over 40, just over 40mm lug to lug. So yeah, it's not too bad. I think it fits my wrist and suits me fine. Legibility, well, it's a small watch. Tiny hands, no loom, and that digital display that disappears or reappears depending on angle. It's not stunningly legible. I think this one with the silver hands against the black dial is probably the least legible of all, so do bear that in mind. Moans and niggles. Well, you know what you're getting with these. You know exactly what you're getting into before you get into it. I've discussed most of the complaints already. Only 30 meters of water resistance. The dial will scratch if you treat it roughly. The case will scratch if you treat it roughly. This bracelet will remove some of your hairs pretty much no matter what you do. I guess if you wear it really low and loose below the knuckle, you might get away with it. But then again, if you move your arm around, it'll probably take a few on the way up and down. Hence why I would wear this one high and hence why I would wear this one tight. And it's a massive fingerprint magnet. You can see smudges. I've been spending the last 20 minutes furiously wiping both of these watches off camera. Yeah, this body just picks up so much muck from your fingers at all times, so carry a polishing cloth with you would be my suggestion. But overall, a cracking little vintage retro reissue by Casio and such a fun watch. I love how delineated the analog and the digital displays are on these. I love that big black surround to the digital display as well. Rather different to the AQ230 that I've talked about a couple of times. I would definitely prefer this to that, given the choice if the two of them were equally priced. The prices are not unreasonable, especially if you shop around. And like I said, it's a brand new model. Wait 6 months and they're likely to be even cheaper. Don't expect a luxury watch. Don't expect it to last forever. Don't expect to have your full complement of arm hair at the end of the day either after wearing these, but it's a watch that will put a smile on your face without putting a hole in your bank account. So there you have it, another cracking retro offering from Casio. Pay as little as possible, buy as many as possible, and enjoy. If you're not a fan of this one, why not check out the A100 or the classic calculator CA53W. Thanks for watching. I will see you all again in a future video.